Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Oh and That's a Bad Miss. Thanks for the support over that first episode. It was huge. I wasn't expecting anything like that, but I'm glad you guys appreciated the podcast and sort of understood where I was coming from with the reasoning behind this whole podcast. And because of that, I've taken the financial hit. And trust me, it's a financial hit to get this stuff up and running. And we are now available on iTunes or your Apple podcast app and Spotify. Because I know I personally don't listen to podcasts on Spotify, but I know quite a lot of people do. So we are now available on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. Just to allow you to listen to my sweet voice whenever you want. So yeah, thank you guys again for the support on the first episode. As ever, if you want to send me a message, whether it's asking a question for a future episode or just some feedback or anything at all, you can contact me via Twitter at ohandthat'sabad1, that's the number 1, or email ohandthat'sabadmiss@gmail.com, or just leave a comment in your choice of viewing, so YouTube comments, your SoundCloud comments, or you can leave me a review on iTunes or Spotify. And as ever, this is brought to you by reddit.com/r/snooker, the perfect place to go and chat about all things snooker. And it's brilliant because we have had one hell of a week of snooker. It's only been 6 days since I last recorded one of these, but the amount of stuff that's happened has been unbelievable, and it's been brilliant being able to talk to people about the issues and what's been happening and see different points of view. It's something that I miss in snooker because I feel like the online presence isn't as much as other sports naturally, and it's good to have a home base to talk to people about the big news stories. And speaking of the big news stories, probably the biggest one to come out of this week is the beginning of the UK Championships. It started off of BBC. BBC are only picking up the coverage today as I record this. It's Saturday. And they missed a hell of a chance. If they'd started their programming with the first round, they would have seen amateur James Cahill defeat Mark Selby, world number 1, three-time world champion, my apologies, 3-time world champion. He was knocked out 6-3 in the first round. Now, last week I was saying that this was a possibility. I didn't think it was a strong possibility, but I thought the way Selby's been playing this season and last season, other than the odd flash of his greatness, last season and this season have been disappointing. There's no better way to put it. He's such an incredible player when he's on form, but he's really struggled to find any semblance of form in the last year and a half since he last won the world title, and he's out first round UK Championship. Probably it's the second, not financially but mentally and in the public eye, it's the second biggest tournament in the year. It's huge, and he's out in the first round. He's supposed to be the world number 1. He's supposed to be that guy that everyone follows and is supposed to be the face of the sport. And if Mark Williams continues to win, and he has just won his first round match as I record this, if Mark Williams continues to play the way he's been playing and continues to win matches and wins this tournament, Mark Williams will be world number 1. And how far could Mark Selby sink? Personally, I think, because obviously Mark's world title win 2 years ago, at the end of this season, the ranking points from that come off. So I think Mark could drop to 3rd or 4th with O'Sullivan. I mean, Judd Trump only needs another couple of big wins. There's so many good players in the rankings right now that Mark Selby can't afford to play as poorly as he did against James Cahill. It was horrific. The missed pink in the, what was it, sixth frame? I think it was the 6th frame, where Mark had a chance to build up some momentum and force a comeback, and you thought, oh, if he can get this frame, then James's run of luck is over. But no, he missed. Like, it wasn't a gimme pink, but it wasn't difficult. You'd expect Mark to pot it, and he didn't. And he couldn't pot anything that match. It was terrible, and it definitely wasn't a world number 1 performance. It wasn't a top 16 performance. It was amateur, and in sport, you're naturally going to possibly overreact when you see a couple of bad performances. But what Mark needs to do now is really, really take a step back, look at what he has done, look at who he can play as, and look at who he's playing as at the moment. He's not Mark Selby right now, or he's not how he wants to be remembered as, because every player wants to go down as the best. I mean, that's why we all love sport. Sport is competitive. Sport's being the best. That's what everyone wants to do. Mark just needs, I don't know what it is. Trust me, if it was as easy as telling him to do something and he'd win, life would be a hell of a lot easier. But it's not. He just needs to take a step back and... But he's not the only one having a terrible season. Sean Murphy has had an absolutely dire season, being knocked out in early rounds against lower ranked players. He's out as well in the first round. Ryan Day is also out in the first round. Ryan Day obviously has had a more successful year or so, but Sean has started horrifically in this season, being knocked out in the first round of the UK Championships. John Higgins, really, I mean, for a player of his calibre, hasn't had a great season. He's saying he's worn out with the game and fed up, and it shows. But I think it makes for really good snooker viewing for the public, because we can watch so many different players. How many different players have won ranking events this season? You've had Kyron Wilson, you've had all these players that you don't expect to win them all. Like, when you look at the betting odds going in, and believe me, we'll come back to betting in a minute. When you look at the betting odds going in to a tournament, they're always so varied, because Ronnie O'Sullivan obviously picks up a lot of the money because he's been playing well, and he's a very good player, and he's dominant, but he's not so dominant. It's not like tennis. I always feel like tennis, the same 2 or 3, 4 players win the big tournaments over and over and over and over again. But with snooker this season, we've seen that the ranking events have got such a varied array of winners. Last year's Masters, when Mark Allen, this calendar year, last season's Masters, when Mark Allen won that, yes, he wasn't the favourite to win it, but no one was shocked. No one thought, oh my God, I can't believe he's done it. Because it's well within the realms of possibility that any of the top 16 and any of the top 30 or so could win any of these big ranking events, or non-ranking events in the case of the Masters. Anyway, bit of a rant, that one. Speaking of the UK Championships, if you're a newer fan of snooker, and maybe this podcast has made its way out and you've just sort of thought, oh, snooker, I haven't watched that in a while. If you're looking for a guide to the UK Championships, I was listening to Dave Hendon's Snooker Scene podcast the other day, and he did a really good episode just going through the history of the UK Championships. It's just him talking to the mic as I'm doing now, and yeah, his podcast was a huge inspiration for this one, and he's brilliant. I've had no contact with the man, trust me, it's not like we've got any deal or sponsorship or anything, but he's got a very good podcast, so if you're interested in this sort of thing, then I highly recommend that. And on to the slightly less cheery conversation. Yu Delu and Chow Yu Peng have been banned for match fixing, and it's a difficult subject because it's so cut and dry. You're not allowed to bet on snooker if you're a professional, and if you're participating in any tournaments. You are not allowed to take money in order to influence the outcome of a tournament. Those are simple rules, and yet time and time again the players fail. The fact that this sport is supposed to be growing around the world, and China is such a huge market, and these two huge stars from China, well, Yu Delu, a lot of people may not have heard of him. He's just, I mean, I've watched him play a few times. I always thought he was a sort of average player. He was okay. But he has been banned for 10 years and 9 months for match fixing. He's been described as a scourge to the game of snooker. It's disgusting. Like the fact, let me find the matches. Here we go. So Yu Delu admitted, these are only the ones that he was found and admitted to fixing. It was an Indian Open qualifier match from 2015 against Martin McCrudden, a Paul Hunter Classic, a tournament that is about the memory of one of the best snooker players of all time who we lost far too early, and he fucking fixes a match against Dominic Dale in 2015 in a tournament about Paul Hunter's memory, and he dirties it with his match fixing. It's disgusting. And the fact, personally, I think 10 years, that is a hell of a long time. That's his career done. It's like Lee's ban in, 2016. He got 12 years, I believe. It's a long time, and your career is over. Yu Delu will never be a professional snooker player again. I don't think. I mean, he could, but I don't think he ever will. And I don't think he should. I think he should be banned for life, because he admitted to fixing 5. How many did he attempt to fix? How many did he fix? He also failed to report approaches to fixing the matches and did not cooperate with the investigation. And he only admitted guilt very late into the investigation when he knew he was not going to get away with it. It's unbelievable that these players find a way. He's been on telly. He is one of the bigger names in China. He's someone that some people in China playing will look up to. And he used his position and abused it. Now, Chow Yu-peng, it appears he was under some financial strain, which is no excuse, because Chow Yu-peng had one of the most promising careers. It was the Scottish Open, I believe, against Neil Robertson in the final, where Chow needed that one black ball, the final black, and it wobbled in the jaws, and that cost him the title. I think he was a good 4 or 5 frames up, needing only one more to win it. He couldn't do it. That broke my heart, that match. I remember sitting there just depressed watching Chow miss opportunity after opportunity. And it was to have that emotion behind sport, and then to find out that your emotion was nothing, because this guy had been taking £5,000 each time he fixed a match. And I understand financial strain. I mean, it's difficult being a pro and losing early on in the matches, because they only go back to 2016. But it's unexcusable, and I haven't seen anyone come out to support them, which is great, because snooker's a sport that has been tarred with the brush of being a bit sleazy, for being a bit dodgy with the back dealings, not helped by the likes of Stuart Bingham and John Higgins in the past. They're huge names, both former world champions, and they've both been done for match fixing. Not directly, I understand. Actually, I believe Stuart Bingham wasn't for match fixing. It was due to gambling. And that, I don't understand. The fact that Stuart Bingham gambled on his own... I don't think he gambled on his own matches, but he gambled on matches through his... I believe it was his manager's betting account online. Why? If you like if you like a flutter, we all do. Everyone likes chucking a tenner on an accumulator every now and then. Do it on another sport. Any other sport. You got football, you got rugby, you got cricket, you got everything. Whatever you want, just not the snooker. Anything. And Stuart Bingham was banned for, I think it was around a year, maybe 6 months. I mean, that just shows stupidity, as far as I can see. I haven't been able to watch a Stuart Bingham match the same way, because I know he never fixed a match, he never did anything like that. But the fact that he's stupid, and it's stupidity, it's nothing else, it's ridiculously stupid. The fact that he was stupid enough to bet on a sport he is a professional in, despite signing multiple contracts, saying that he wouldn't, just ruins it for me. And it's one of those things that annoys me, because snooker has fallen on tough times within the media. Unless there's a big tournament going on, the BBC very rarely covers it. And obviously the BBC is my sort of gauge with the popular media, because if the BBC covers it, it's sort of a big enough story, and it's not obviously huge, but it's getting the attention, because most people look at the BBC News website and the BBC Sport websites. And the only times it seems that snooker appears on the front page of said website is when someone's been done for match fixing. And it's embarrassing, because as a snooker fan, your mates, just people, will see that and they'll just think, oh, the only time I hear about snooker is someone being a bit dodgy. It's not good. It's embarrassing for the sport. And that's why I think these people should be banned for life. Because I appreciate the board handing down such extreme... And 10 years of your life where you can't do what you're best at doing is a long time. So the board handing out a ban like that, and the fines, is great, huge, brilliant. And I appreciate that they are doing a lot more than they ever used to. It's still not the same though. It's not the same as just turning and saying, you're out of our sport, don't come back. It's a tough one though. Where do you stop? Where do you draw the line? Where do you start fighting it? Do you start at the grassroots level, or do you just focus on the top professionals? Because it's only a matter of time, I feel, until another Lee happens, another big name, another Higgins, another mainstream star. We'll see. In slightly more upbeat news, this week, Sean Murphy was in Paris, hoping to bring snooker to the Olympics, which, I'll be honest, would be pretty cool. It would stand the Olympics. As a sports fan, I love it. Snooker as a sport, does its image work in the Olympics? I don't know. But I think it's Tokyo. They just added skateboarding, and you've got BMXing. You've got all these modern sports that are sort of pushing the boundaries. I don't see why we can't have snooker. And it would bring the sport to a new level. It would bring more eyes to the sport. It'd be... I don't see a downside. It's just down to the Olympic Commission as to whether or not they want to add it. And personally, I don't see it happening. This is one of those ones where I'd be really, really interested to see what you guys think, and have a conversation online, like I said, on Twitter, YouTube comments, email. It's interesting to think about, like, how would they do it? Would it be just a straight knockout tournament? Would it be some sort of like league table? And then, I don't know, it's something that I'd love to see, because obviously as a snooker fan, any chance to watch more snooker would be brilliant. And Sean Murphy, a lot of people don't like him because he is a bit too goody two shoes. He's a bit smarmy, I guess, sometimes. But I'm a fan of the man. He's the perfect guy to send to an event like that to advertise snooker to the Olympics, because he is a He's a charmer. He's a salesman. It's like how he's now doing punditry for the BBC now that he's out of the UK Championship. He manages to fit in, and he'll never offend anyone. And he's perfect for that position. They definitely made the right decision sending Sean over than anyone else, really. Now, in an interesting bit of news, two-time ranking event winner Dominic Dale says he's planning to retire at the end of the season. That's a man who's been a professional for 26 years. That's a long time. I mean, I'm 20. That's 6 years longer than I've been alive, and he's been a professional snooker player. It'd be sad to see him go, because he has been a staple of the sport. I remember growing up, seeing him in the tournaments. Obviously, he's never been a huge player. His highest ranking, his highest ranking was 19th in the world. So he's never been in the top 16, but he's always been there. He's always made a living playing snooker. He's always been there, been a supporting character. And I mean that in no disrespect, because like I said, I think he's brilliant, and very much enjoyed his punditry work he did. What tournament was it? I believe it was with Eurosport, may have been with ITV. He did some punditry work, and I thought he did a bloody good job. I think he was really good. Yeah, so it'd be a shame to see him go, but I think this is going to happen quite a lot in the next few years. A lot of these players who have been around for a long while will drop off the scene, unfortunately, and they are brilliant, but their time comes, and it's time for the new lot to come on through. So, what else am I expecting from the UK Championships? Because that will be the biggest news for the next week. I expect Mark Williams to win it. Not expect. I predict Mark Williams will win it, and that Mark will be world number 1 come Sunday. He's enjoying snooker so much, and he's winning a lot. He's very good, and I think he does well in these pressure situations, as we proved in the World Championships. The moment, like when most players would be shitting themselves, Mark Williams is sat there eating, I think it was minstrels out of a bag, just shoving them in his gob, not gracefully, really ungracefully, just pouring them in one of the most stressful situations of your life. So I think he's really good at this situation. The fact becoming world number 1 to him would mean the world. Don't let his cool persona fool you. It would mean a hell of a lot to him. But it won't mean too much to him that he can't do it. You see it a lot with the lower ranked players, where they sort of get into these positions where something big could happen. They could beat, Cahill was a huge example. He managed to hold on and beat Mark Selby, where a lot of players, like Chow Yu Peng in the final of the Scottish Open against Neil Robertson, fell apart. And that's what separates the men from the boys in snooker, and in any sport, and in life, is whether you can take those opportunities, whether you fall apart. And I think Mark Williams will always take those opportunities, and always has done. I could see Judd Trump going quite far, because I think the whole issue between him and Kyron Wilson a couple of weeks ago riled him up. And Judd Trump has always been one to play with emotion. And it's almost like a younger Ronnie O'Sullivan, where O'Sullivan would sometimes get stroppy. Judd Trump can also get a bit stroppy and lose matches he shouldn't lose, because he's just dropping around the table. He's throwing his toys out the pram, which that annoys me a lot when watching such high talent be wasted because they get all stroppy. But I think Judd is harnessing that now. He's harnessing it, focusing. I think he should make the semi-finals. Someone else I expect to go quite far would be Jack Lisowski. He's had a cracking season so far, and he just needs a big result on telly to sort of push him over the edge. Excuse me. And solidify him as one of the best in the world? It's a tough one, because Lazowski is a lot like Trump, where he can let his emotions get the better of him. But then again, Trump has won multiple ranking events, but people thought Trump would be world champion by now. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what you guys think about what could happen in the World Championship. Not World Championships, getting way ahead of myself yet. In the UK Championships this year. And the next time I talk to you guys, it will probably be final day. And that will be interesting. I love a good... Those Sundays are something else. When it's a Sunday and you've got a big tournament final, whether it's the Masters, one of the big three, it's always something else, because a Sunday is one day off work I get, and it's so nice to enjoy it and sit back and watch some top quality snooker, because the best snooker comes out when it's on BBC, I find. I don't know whether it's the fact that they know they've got the TV cameras on them, or it's just they know they're in the bigger tournaments, but they seem to play better. And when one player plays better, it brings up the other player. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this tournament. And I think that just about wraps up this week. We have had a hell of a week. So much snooker news and a lot going on in the lead up to such a big tournament, which was already going to be big enough news in itself. Thanks for listening if you've made it this far. I really do appreciate it. If you could hit subscribe on whatever form you're listening to this to. Check out reddit.com/r/snooker in order to have a chat. Join me on there and have a chat about every day of the UK Championships. There's dedicated discussion threads. As I said before, we're available on iTunes and Spotify, so a rating and review on iTunes would be really appreciated. And yeah, I guess I will see you guys in around a week. Have a good one.